Hey everyone. Today we are going to talk about male factor infertility. Um, Not too commonly discussed in the trying to conceive world, I feel like, just because usually it's the women that are a little bit more dedicated to doing whatever it takes to get pregnant. And so when it comes to male factor infertility, there's just not a whole lot of information out there. Um, so to start, some of the different things that can go wrong with male factor infertility. I mean, of course, there's the basic that everybody knows is a low sperm count. But that's a pretty broad statement. That doesn't really say why it's low. I mean, it could be that literally they just don't produce very much sperm, or it could be that the cells are immature. Um, Low motility is another option. Bad morphology is another option. So, morphology is shape, which means, we all know what sperm theoretically looks like. It's got a head, a neck, and a tail. The tail can be bent, the head can be smaller, things like that, which make it really difficult for fertilization because it's kind of like a puzzle piece. So it's got to be the right shape and size and everything to be able to fertilize that egg. So, and then motility is movement, how fast it can move. So it being able to travel through the cervix, through the uterus, up the fallopian tube to fertilize that little egg. It's a long distance for such a microscopic little thing there. So those are just some of the things. Some other things that can happen too is you can have round cells in sperm, which can be due to a couple of things. Either it can signify infection or it can signify those immature germ cells we were talking about a minute ago. Men can also have white blood cells in their sperm, which is usually an indication of infection. So if that happens, definitely have them checked for infection. Worst case scenario, cancer, but I'm sure that's not that common in this world. But at least let's hope. But know that the concern can be there, so pay attention to it most definitely. Another thing is the sperm can have DNA defects. So a lot of the times when it comes to recurrent miscarriage, people automatically blame the woman, due to lack of implantation, bad eggs, whatever the case may be, but it can be due to the men's sperm as well. So if they have DNA defects, it can cause chromosomal abnormalities, and which in turn will cause early miscarriage, recurrent miscarriage. So just to kind of go over all that those are some of the just basic things. I'm sure that there are other things that can go wrong, erectile dysfunction I'm sure has a big play in it, and libido, things like that. So to get started, we'll just kind of go over some different things that you can do to help improve it naturally. Now, of course, these aren't going to be a cure-all, but they can definitely help. And of course, the number one thing I'm going to recommend to anybody trying to get pregnant or having fertility issues is working on diet and exercise. Our lifestyles today are really busy, and we tend to not focus very much on our diet and our exercise and stuff. We have such fast-paced lives. Usually we're grabbing the fastest thing to eat, and we don't necessarily have time to work out. And then the little bit of time that we do have, we want to relax because we've been working so much. So it's really important to try and make time in your day to accommodate some lifestyle changes as well. So to talk a little bit more about the round cells, one other thing that these can be due to, not just inflammation, not just infection, but also inflammation. So inflammation isn't always due to infection. A lot of people think it is, but it's not. Sometimes your body kind of has a overactive response. So kind of like PCOS. So our bodies don't know exactly what's wrong, and so they inflame the ovaries. And that's kind of what causes cysts and stuff. Well, it's one of the causes, of course. And same with endometriosis. We have those abnormal growths. I mean, it's abnormal endometrium growth, so it's something that is in our bodies already, but it's in the wrong place. So our body attacks it, thinking it's a foreign, thing in our bodies that it needs to get rid of. So it inflames the area. Same thing can happen with men. They can have poor response or insulin issues, and it can cause inflammation problems. So having an anti-inflammatory diet is really going to help. So that's going to be those, leafy greens, nice fresh stuff, refraining from sugar and dairy products and gluten. Now, I'm not saying cut it all out and go ketogenic or anything, but definitely, like I stated in some of my previous videos, it's all about moderation. So, and then when it comes to morphology, so the shape of the sperm, that can be affected by a lot of things. Heat actually has a pretty big impact on it. I know that sounds weird, but it's been a pretty strong study that men, when they have sperm tests done in the summertime, it tends to be lower than it is in the wintertime. So making sure that that their nether regions don't necessarily overheat is a pretty important factor. It sounds weird, but it is a proven fact, and they have done studies on it. So, and then another thing, of course, is like marijuana use and things like that that can prohibit the function of proper shaping sperm. And then slow sperm, low motility, that can be due to a lot of things as well. So drug use, alcohol use, cigarettes, that kind of thing can slow them down. Another thing is the inflammation. So inflammation can cause thicker bodily fluids. And so the viscosity, as it'll be listed on your semen analysis results, is basically the consistency of the fluid around the sperm. Now, if that's really thick, the sperm's not going to travel very well. So it's important to regulate that. Things that are going to be really good for regulating that are going to be your anti-inflammatory diet and omegas. So omegas 3s, 6s, chia seeds are really great for that. I love them. Most men probably won't like them very much. But it's worth a shot, and if you can get them to drink it, or if you guys are willing to give it a shot, it could definitely help. It helps women in the cervical mucus area as well. So that's just kind of a big fluid thing. Of course, now increasing your water intake can definitely help, cutting back on sodas and things like that as well. So when I talk about female infertility, a lot of the times I'm referencing to LH and FSH, the two hormones, the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone. What I found out recently is men actually have those same exact hormones. They just function a bit differently in the men's body, but ultimately it's to reach the same goal. So, the follicle stimulating hormone in women stimulates follicle growth for healthy eggs, and in men it stimulates good sperm growth. So supporting those is going to be really important. And any sort of hormonal imbalance, like low testosterone, elevated estrogen, that's going to impact it negatively. So, and as I stated in some of my other videos, we are exposed to a lot of external estrogens. So having a man supplement with DIM, just as a woman would for estrogen dominance, is going to be equally beneficial. So, and then, the LH, that supports testosterone production. And I know I can speak from personal experience. Testosterone production impacts more than just fertility. My husband, he doesn't necessarily have low testosterone, but it did need a little bit of a boost. So we started supplementing with some testosterone boosting vitamins, and it has really, really helped, I think. He says he doesn't notice a difference, but I do. I've noticed that he tends to have a bit more energy when he takes those supplements in the mornings. He tends to be in a little bit better of a mood. He handles stress a little better. His libido is increased. Things like that. So, what we can talk about next is kind of things that help boost testosterone, regulate hormones, increase sperm count, that kind of thing. So first off, I want to definitely mention tribulus. This stimulates LH production in men, so therefore increases testosterone. Really good stuff. It's actually one of the main ingredients in the supplements that I give him. Another thing is zinc. Zinc is really important. It's not just a good thing to have in your diet, but it's an antioxidant. It helps fluid retention issues, inflammation, detoxification, helps fight infection. All around, it's just kind of one of the number one things that I recommend for any sort of fertility problem. So, the herb that kind of stimulates the libido factor the most is goatweed. It's also comically known as the horny goatweed. I think that one's kind of funny, but it helps. It basically just helps stimulate the libido, increase a little bit of testosterone. It's a plant. It's a plant-based testosterone, basically. So it's kind of the same concept as a phytoestrogen, except for it's a plant that mimics testosterone rather than estrogen. So kind of the same concept there. So that's going to be more of a replacement therapy rather than a correction therapy. So keep that in mind. Taking this is going to make things better, but once you stop, it's going to go away. So, but the good thing about this is that it's not going to negatively impact things, because if you realize that it's too much for a person, you can easily cut back the dose and or stop, and then your body is going to process it out and everything's going to be fine. Now, for those DNA defects, some things that are going to be pretty beneficial are like your CoQ10s, that helps with cell production. Folic acid, it's just as important for men as it is for women. It's been in a couple of studies where men that supplement with folic acid have a lower risk of DNA defects in their sperm. So I think that's a pretty important factor there. You know, you can supplement with really high doses and you're not really risking a whole lot. Of course, you know, I always say start out a little lower to make sure you don't get headaches or upset stomach or stuff like that, because I know that some people can from folic acid. And you know, the most important way to supplement with folic acid is naturally. So again, that comes back to your leafy greens. It's really important. So just a few other things that, you know, all around help male fertility is going to be selenium, that helps motility, vitamin C, it's an antioxidant, it helps count, motility, structure. B complex is going to help the overall health. It's going to help his energy level, things like that, which in turn is going to help regulate hormones that may be out of balance. Vitamin E, it's considered one of the most recommended vitamins for fertility. It helps so much count, motility, structure, viscosity, DNA defects. I mean, it's like all around. And for women, it helps just about everything as well, too. And then, of course, I mentioned the CoQ10 and the zinc. And then there's acetyl L-carnitine. L-carnitine helps with a few things outside of just sperm count. So, like my mom, she takes it for tachycardia. So she has an elevated heart rate and it's chronic. It doesn't go away, but she takes this L-carnitine and it lowers her heart rate pretty easily and just makes it manageable. So it helps with stress, anxiety, all that kind of stuff. And then also it helps with the motility and DNA defects. And then there's L-arginine. This is more so for libido as well, but it also increases blood flow to the sexual organs, which kind of in turn goes back around to the libido because you need blood flow to get things going. But basically, this is good for men and women. Women, it helps with implantation, blood flow, blood stagnation. Like if you sit too long and you don't get good blood circulation down there, it kind of helps just replace all that old blood with new blood. So that's really important. And then I mentioned the goat weed. Let's see here. And then NAC. I'm probably going to butcher this pronunciation here. It's N-acetylcysteine, I think. But that helps motility, structure, count, and volume. So that's going to be an all-around plus right there. And then DHEA. So this is going to be in moderation. Now, if testosterone is really the issue, this is going to be something good to start with. But if you're not entirely sure whether or not testosterone is a problem, starting out with a really low dose of this is going to be a good idea. You don't want to overdo it because having too much in your system can actually cause negative side effects. So it will reduce libido and things like that because it produces similar cells to, let's see, like a steroid would, if that makes sense. So in the beginning, I mean, it can help with your testosterone levels, muscle mass, energy, that kind of thing, but taken into high doses, it can decrease sexual desire, decrease sperm count, and that kind of thing. So it's definitely make sure testosterone is a problem before supplementing with this, but if it is, it's definitely something good to add in. And then again, the folic acid. And then Panax ginseng. So ginseng actually in traditional Chinese medicine is one of the number one things recommended for fertility. It's a really good balancing agent. So it helps balance all those hormones and also helps with energy levels and detoxification, things like that. So, and then maca, this is a huge thing around the internet. I always hear about it. I can tell you from personal experience that when I tried it, granted, I'm not using it for male fertility. When I tried it, I didn't really notice many differences. I don't know if it was the brand that I was getting. Darn thing keeps cutting me off. So I don't know if it was the brand I was getting or the quality of the product. I purchased it at Super Supplements, but I just didn't really notice a huge difference. So I'm not going to say whether or not that's going to be a good thing to start, but I know that it can't hurt because it is a balancing agent. So theoretically, all of the stuff that I've read on it, it's supposed to help balance hormones naturally without supplementing with any sort of a phytohormone like phytoestrogen or a phytotestosterone. So personally, when I was taking it, I preferred it mixed in orange juice or smoothies. So if that is something that you want, definitely get the powder form because you have to take large quantities of it. So taking it in the pill form can be a little bit annoying because you'll have to take a bunch of them, as to where with a smoothie or orange juice, you can just put a couple of teaspoons in it and call it a day. So, and then we also have, like I mentioned before, the DIMS. So this is going to be really good for getting rid of those bad estrogens. Men can have estrogen dominance the same as women can. And if they have estrogen dominance, this is lowering testosterone. So if there's a testosterone issue, this is going to be something you want to take into consideration as well. Because it'll help get rid of all those bad estrogens that they don't need and then use the estrogens that they do need. And so, yeah, that kind of wraps up some of the standard things that you could take that aren't really going to be necessarily a cure-all, but it could be what you need. It could be that little bit. And a lot of people have, low zinc quantities in their body, low selenium, or whatever the case may be. And sometimes just a little boost is all we need, and if the sperm count is low or, moderate to low, or even on the low end of normal, starting something like this is really going to help. And even if you have good sperm count, I recommend starting at least a multivitamin that includes some, if not most, of these supplements, just to kind of better your overall health. It can't hurt. So that kind of wraps it up today. I'm trying to make a little bit shorter videos. I know I can tend to ramble a lot. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions about male factor infertility, or if there's something you'd like me to expand on, just let me know in the comments or email me at the email address below, and we can definitely talk about it. I have no problem touching on anything when it comes to fertility, so just feel free to shoot me a message, and I hope that this is helpful to you guys that are having some issues with your sperm count. All right, thanks.